Crazy Rich Asians is a 2018 American romantic comedy drama film directed by Jon M from the screenplay by Peter Chiarelli and Adele Lim, based on the 2013 novel of the same title by Kevin Kwan. The film stars Constance Wu, Henry Golding, Gemma Chan, Lisa Liu, Awkwafina, Jeong, and Michelle Yeoh. It follows a Chinese-American professor who travels to meet her boyfriend's family and is surprised to discover they are among the richest in Singapore. The film was announced in August 2012 after the rights to the book were purchased. Many of the cast members signed on in the spring of 2017, and filming took place from April to June of that year in parts of Singapore, Malaysia, and New York City. It is the first film by a major Hollywood studio to feature a majority cast of Chinese descent in a modern setting since The Joy Luck Club in 1993. Despite such praises, the film received some criticism for casting biracial actors over fully ethnically Chinese actors in certain roles. Additional criticism was also directed at the film for failing to acknowledge Singapore's multiracial demographic by including other Singaporean ethnic groups such as Malay and Indian actors as characters, as well as perpetuating the cliché stereotypes of East and Southeast Asians. Crazy Rich Asians premiered on August 7, 2018 at the TCL Chinese Theatre in Los Angeles and was released theatrically in the United States on August 15, 2018 by Warner Brothers Pictures. A major critical and commercial success, the film grossed over $238 million on a budget of just $30 million, making it the highest grossing romantic comedy of the 2010s, and received high praise for the performances of its cast, the screenplay, and the production design. The film received numerous accolades, including the 76th Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, and Best Actress Motion Picture or Comedy for Wu. It received nomination at the 50th NAACP Image Awards for Outstanding Motion Picture. It also received 4 nominations at the 24th Critics' Choice Awards, winning one for Best Comedy, and the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture at the 25th Screen Actors Guild Awards. 2 sequels based on the novel's follow-ups, China Rich Girlfriend and Rich People Problems, are in development. The cast includes Constance Wu as Rachel Chu, Nick's girlfriend and Kerry's daughter, Henry Golding as Nick Young, Rachel's boyfriend and Philip and Eleanor's son, Gemma Chan as Astrid Leong Tu, Nick's cousin and Michael's wife, a fashion icon and socialite, Lisa Liu as Sang Chu Yi, Nick's grandmother and the matriarch of the family, Awkwafina as Go Pek Lin, Rachel's charismatic confidant and best friend, and Wei Mun's daughter. Kin Jun as Gun Wei Mun, Pek Lin's wealthy father. Michelle Yeoh as Eleanor Sung Young, Nick's domineering mother and Philip's wife. Some interesting trivia notes. Most of Awkwafina's lines as Pek Lung Gong were improvised. Awkwafina was supposed to wear several different wigs throughout the movie. However, after putting on the blonde wigs, it was decided to scrap the other wigs and just keep the one. A joke about this was kept in the scene where Jeong starts calling her Asian Ellen, a reference to Ellen DeGeneres. Netflix wanted to produce the film and offered a much bigger budget, but Kevin Kwan deliberately turned down the offer in favor of a modest $30 million budget from Warner Brothers. This was done to send a message that Asian American studio movies are commercially viable. Director Jon M personally wrote to the members of Coldplay for permission to use a cover of Yellow. Aside from Yellow's obvious connotation as an epithet, the band was also reluctant to be associated with the film because of the accusations of cultural appropriation surrounding their song, Princess of China. However, Chu won them over after explaining his personal fondness of the song and his desire to reclaim the word from its usage as a racial slur. This is Henry Golding's first movie. He was only a travel show host before this, but was introduced to the project after a producer met a studio accountant in Singapore who suggested his name. However, Henry turned down the role several times as he did not think he was good enough for the part and believed a legitimate actor would be better suited. It was not until director Jon M reached out to him via a mutual Facebook friend that he was finally convinced to do the part. Michelle Yeoh loaned her hefty jewelry pieces from her own personal collection for the film. Henry Golding had to cut his own honeymoon short after the studio required him and Constance Wu to fly out for a screen test. Singapore Airlines was invited to participate, but the company declined. Instead, the flight took place on board a fictional Pacific Asian Airlines. Although the film received praise in the United States for its casting, which made history for Asian American representation, it was criticized elsewhere for not exclusively using actors of Chinese descent in ethnically Chinese roles. The film was also criticized for using British and American English over Singaporean English. In addition, the film received criticism for poorly representing the actual makeup of Singapore, virtually erasing non-Chinese citizens. In particular, the casting of lead actor Henry Golding, who is of Malaysian Iban and English descent, as a Chinese Singaporean character Nick Young, was controversial. Several detractors negatively compared the casting to whitewashing and criticized it for perpetuating the idea that Asian actors cannot be Hollywood leading men without Eurocentric features, while supporters highlighted Golding's own Malaysian background and upbringing, noting that criticisms reflected struggles that multiracial Asians face within the Asian community itself. Golding initially called the criticism towards his casting as quite hurtful, but was later more open towards criticism as he felt there should be a conversation about it. Awkwafina jokingly stated it would have been bad only if the producers had cast Emma Stone as Nick, referring to the 2015 film Aloha, where Stone was cast as a character who is stated to be 1/4 Chinese and 1/4 Hawaiian descent. Kevin Kwan, the author of the book on which the movie is based, has been charged with draft dodging in his native Singapore. He is liable to a fine of up to $10,000 and or imprisonment of up to 3 years upon conviction. He and his family have resided in the United States since 1990. And despite the government notices and letters sent to his overseas addresses, he has also stayed overseas without a valid exit permit. The three-tower hotel featured in the movie is very real and is called the Marina Bay Sands. It is famous for having the world's largest rooftop infinity pool. Now, this film is a completely over-the-top and glamorous spectacle of a film. It really is a film about pure escapism in terms of its wealth and opulence. But in the same breath, though, underneath all of that, there is quite a very good story. I must say the cast are on point in this film, and it really is a visual razzle-dazzle per se. But in the same breath, though, it takes a huge step forward in screen representation, while still, of course, drawing inspiration from the classic rom-com formula. This is truly a buoyant and bright and hilarious film at times. And you can see all the cast were really enjoying themselves, and they knew that this was a special project and they had to take it seriously. And by this, it makes the film a much more serious romantic comedy than others. There's much more depth to it as well. Look, this is certainly not a film to shy away from the over-the-top opulence of it all. It literally throws money, glitz and glam in every single scene it can, and in many ways plays out sort of like a sort of Cinderella fantasy. But like any good film, it has to live and breathe on good direction and good acting, and I have to say Constance Wu and Henry Golding have really good chemistry here. They play off each other well, and you do really believe that they are in love. But they are helped, of course, by some fantastic supporting performances here, particularly from a little cameo from the comedian Jeong, and of course the fantastic Awkwafina, who lights up every scene that she's in. I also particularly enjoyed Nico Santos here, Nick's gay and campy second cousin. The role's a bit cliched in some ways, but Nico brings it to life perfectly. The one cast performance I really have to mention, though, is Michelle Yeoh. She's absolutely excellent here as Nick's mother. She brings an authoritative, crisp, and sometimes startlingly vulnerable performance to life. And what she does, though, is articulates the unique relationship between Asian parents and their children. This is an intricate chain of love, guilt, devotion, and sacrifice that binds them for eternity. And Michelle Yeoh really sort of plays the sort of serious part of the film and adds another layer to the story. Look, in many ways, this is an East meets West sort of film. And albeit seeing now Singaporean and Asian customs brought to life and more focused from an Asian perspective, I still feel the film, though, does sort of follow usual Hollywood tropes, almost as if it were trying to market itself to a Western audience. I could see some people turning away from the film because of the obscenities of absolute wealth that are portrayed in this film. And for me, in some ways, it also can play off some of the usual stereotypes per se as well. Some people have criticized it, saying it can only attract Westerners who have little knowledge of Asian culture, or Asian Americans who are happy to just see their own culture represented in a Hollywood movie. Those are some good points that are made about this film. And look, this film in many ways has caused a lot of controversy. What I'm going to do, though, is sift through all of that and see it for the film that it is, which is fundamentally a love story about a poor young woman growing up in New York, who's made a life for herself, become a professor, meets a man who hides his past, and then decides to bring her to Singapore, only for her to realize how incredibly wealthy he is and how now she must win over his family. And when you look at this film for what it is, really a romantic comedy, it's a nice, easy film. This for me is by no means a romantic comedy classic, but the acting is good, the story is well told, and the directing is good. When you look past all of the opulence, controversial casting decisions, and maybe pandering to Western ideals, this is a nice, easy film that I can see a lot of people really enjoyed, because at the end of the day, it is pure escapism. It's a feel-good story about two people falling in love, whilst also representing a culture and a part of the world that maybe doesn't get its fair representation. Glitzy and glamorous, but when you look past all the razzmatazz, you find a nice, earnest, easy film that will provide you with some good entertainment. Crazy Rich Asians gets an 8 out of 10.